Let's go ahead and resume. Yeah, okay. You're up.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Next up is going to be our Economic Development Services Department. This will be the overview of their operating budget for their various operating divisions that they have. Just as a reminder, we will have an opportunity next Wednesday to talk more specifically about the Economic Development Program and the EDIS initiatives. So tonight is really just to go through their operating budget. Scott White is here, the Economic Development Services Director, and if you can refer to page 251 in your workbooks.
Good evening. Great to be before you again. Our favorite subject, economic development, just kidding. The Economic Development Services Department is comprised of three main divisions. We have the Business and Real Estate Development Division, whose task is to implement and focus on the key areas of your typical municipal economic development function, including business attraction, business retention, redevelopment, workforce development, and small business development. We also have the Building Development Division, whose primary focus area is on the building plan review, permitting, and inspection process, and ensuring life safety in all of the building development that occurs in the city. Then also our Site Development Division, who is principally tasked with the engineering plan review, permitting, and inspection in terms of ensuring all of the horizontal development meets the standards of the city in terms of private development, as well as assisting in engineering review as part of city CIP projects. In terms of the primary council goal that the entire department responds to, it's the Economic Development Council goal. Primary activities for fiscal year 14 for the business and real estate development is to implement the strategies that attract targeted industries, help existing businesses grow and expand in Peoria, facilitate development opportunities in targeted investment zones, develop Peoria's workforce, and attract, retain, and expand our small business. The principal policy document to which the department, as well as this division specifically, respond to is the Economic Development Implementation Strategy. Building development, their primary activities for fiscal year 14, ensuring public safety in building construction through thorough plan review, permitting, and inspections, ensuring compliance with city policies and standards regarding building, providing the best customer experience to the development community through timely responses and solutions-oriented approach. For site development, similarly, review engineering documents for private development and public infrastructure, again focusing on engineering plan review, permitting, and inspection, ensuring compliance with city standards and policies, also ensuring compliance with state and county agency requirements, and act as development liaison on private projects to provide best customer service to our clients, developers, architects, engineers, contractors, subcontractors. In essence, trying to make sure that problems in the plan review in the field can be solved with a positive outcome overall. In terms of new budget additions, we have a couple that I wanted to go over with you. There's a supplemental in the package there for $425,000 one time. So I wanted to take a minute and just kind of explain what that is for. All of these are for to further pursue existing initiatives that go back to the EDIS. For example, university events and promotion. We have identified $10,000 for that activity. This is the public relations and other marketing and media events as we go after universities. For example, the press releases that we've had with Trine universities, the grand openings, and a lot of marketing and PR material associated with our efforts to secure universities as part of that key initiative in the EDIS. Another item within that $425,000 is further pursuit of the Vistancia marketing strategy. You may recall back in June of 2012, Council adopted a very specific marketing strategy to try and make the Vistancia commercial core activity accelerate. And so what we're looking for is an additional $40,000 for FY14 to continue that effort as we look to attract prospects into the commercial core to realize our objectives along the 303. Also, targeted industry events and trade shows, such as the Medical Device Manufacturer Show in Anaheim, or Bio Summit for biosciences, or the International Council and Shopping Centers for retail. Looking for those trade shows that have direct application to targeted industries that we need to reach out to and be a part of for prospects. So for that item, we're looking for $15,000 so we can make sure for those targeted trade shows, not going to just any trade show, but those that speak specifically to a targeted industry or a key initiative, that we have the ability to go there and seek out prospects for those areas. Also, our job fair. We've had a couple of job fairs now that we feel are really important signature event for small business programs. So we have identified $5,000 to continue that for the fiscal year 14, as well as our investment conference. You may recall we just recently had one on our innovation economy, and we want to continue those annual conferences as key events to promoting our emerging innovation economy in Peoria, and we've identified $5,000 for that activity. Part of our university recruitment efforts is to continue our relationship with a university recruiter who you've met, Jerry Israel. He will be tasked with, for fiscal year 14, further recruitment efforts to find us a full residential campus university so that we can hopefully get one now that was looking to establish the full university program that could be a prospect in the north or the south. So we want to maintain that contractual relationship. As well, they're tasked also with managing the university consortial effort that we're currently undergoing with Trine University, Huntington University, and the College of St. Scholastica. That amount of money for the university recruiter has been identified at $35,000 for fiscal year 14. We've also identified $30,000 that would be used on an as-needed basis for various property appraisals, if there are properties that we are interested in acquiring, as well as any initial site planning, like we're doing for the Rovies in terms of identifying site plans to help spur the pre-development process for emerging projects. So to have money available to do those efforts, we've identified $30,000 for fiscal year 14. We also think it important to continue our pursuit of foreign trade zone designations for two key investment areas relative to manufacturing, that being the Vistancia Commercial Core as well as the emerging Rovie Industrial Park. We've identified $60,000 that would be for both of those areas. As having a foreign trade zone designation adds a lot of value to those manufacturers that deal with import or export. And so you just increase your competitiveness in terms of landing those types of prospects by having that type of designation in place. So we felt it would be important to have some money set aside to complete those designations for those areas. Now that we're at the midpoint of our initial economic development implementation strategy, we felt it important to have EDIS Part 2 as something that we could look at in fiscal year 14 for the purpose of evaluating the work plan that was established 2.5 years ago, and to identify the next steps for key initiatives. If we want to take our program to the next level, what should that next level be? How do we get there? And what are some case studies we should be mindful of as we try to be successful in taking our program to the next level? So this is to reflect on what's been accomplished, to look at the balance of the work plan, and to take it to the next level. As this is a dynamic document, we want to make sure that we're keeping apprised of trends in the industries and how we should be going forward on this. So we've identified $100,000 for that effort for fiscal year 14. We've identified $25,000 for lead generation consultant. We've had one before for just a pilot program. This is to give us prospect generation that is above and beyond GPEC. We will always participate and avail ourselves of the e-tracks that come out of GPEC, but we also want, I think, kind of chart our own course and make sure that we can generate our own leads for the city of Peoria so that we can land prospects in the important target industries that we seek. One of the items that'll be before you Tuesday night is an extension of the exclusive negotiation agreement with Rovies for the continuing efforts of developing the Rovie Industrial Park. And so we've identified $20,000 for fiscal year 14 to aid in Rovie pre-design services so that we can, again, drill down, take it to the next level of engineering on 75th Avenue, as well as site planning so that we can hopefully get to the point of deal points and a development agreement with the Rovies for that industrial park. We've also identified $40,000 as part of general economic development public relations. You may recall as part of the February 5th study session on economic development, part of the presentation included a binder of marketing materials. We feel that continuing that marketing effort and that public relations is really important for us. I think we've really turned the corner in terms of increasing the regional and national attention to Peoria, and I think we want to maintain that momentum and not lose it. So we've identified $40,000 for 14 to continue that. And lastly, $40,000 for fiscal year 14 to have as-needed consultant money available for financial analysis. So as projects mature to the development agreement stage and we need a Elliott Pollock or an ESI or some third-party consultant to weigh in on development proposals, we have some money available to do that, to make sure that our return on investment and public benefit is what it needs to be. That is the breakdown and the activity description for the $425,000 that is part of the first supplemental. Again, an effort to continue to pursue the initiatives that have been underway. So because that was probably a lot, I thought maybe I would do a quick pause and see if there's any questions on any of that before we go into the next supplemental.
Questions so far? Ms. Carla?
With regards to the update of the whole, or I guess reflection of the EDIS plan, how are you going to include your Economic Development Advisory Board? Because we've got some really great minds, leaders in our community, and people who are volunteering their time, and I think they're an incredible resource for us.
They're an incredible resource, and I've found them to be invaluable in shaping a lot of this policy. So I would imagine that we would use a process very similar to the one we used in adopting the original EDIS, where we work very closely with EDAB, that we bring it back to a number of council study sessions so that the whole council, through the various component pieces, feels very informed, and we, more importantly, get your input as to how you think that plan should be shaped. So I would imagine it to be exact same process as we did for the initial EDIS, culminating hopefully in a joint meeting of EDAB board and the city council for formal adoption as we did with the original.
Good, thank you.
Any questions?
Great, thank you. The next slide speaks to some additional supplementals. You may recall that we have been experiencing severe increases in development activity, which is great news. What we have experienced, and probably the easiest way to express it is if we turn to page 255, which are the metrics. If you turn to the timely building inspections item, you'll see a steady increase in the number of inspections per inspector per day. You see a jump from 25 per day to the 13 estimate of 36 per day. Now, what we want to be in a position to go back to was when our inspectors had the 25 per day, where they could actually spend time with the client in the field, be proactive, and try and anticipate issues, and not roll inspections. Today, we have to roll inspections. Today, we have to spend less time on each visit, and proactive help suffers. So the building inspector 1 position is an FTE. It's a new FTE proposed that would aid us in getting back to that level of service, so that when builders or developers or residents need inspections, we can spend the time with them to help them in the manner that they need and to help them understand why issues are coming up, as opposed to a drive-by inspection. Not literally a drive-by inspection, but we want to be proactive. And I think we need to be more helpful in that way. And that's more just a function of workload to staff capacity. So that's why this new FTE is in the budget.
Mr. Rivera?
Mr. White, I have a question. In regards to the building inspector, during the recession, we transferred some people out of the department. Are you considering bringing an individual back that was moved out of the department? Or
I would imagine that if approved by council, that we would go through a recruitment process, and it would be open to anybody who had interest, including those that have a great deal of expertise in inspection that were in other departments. What we would need to be mindful of then is what gaps in service delivery does that then create in that host department. But I think we would strive to make that opportunity available to everyone.
Thank you.
Great. As you may recall from a recent study session, we were excited for council support for the over-the-counter plan review program. We feel that this will touch a lot of our clients, a lot of our residents, in terms of getting quickly plan review over the counter for more minor applications. So we're bringing back in the budget the anticipated cost for that at $130,000, and we'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have on that. Again, this goes right back to the study session that we had on 3 areas. 1 is over the counter, 2 is electronic plan review, and 3 is online permitting. And we'll speak to all 3 of those tonight.
Questions on over the counter?
Yeah. And you're also looking at self-certification. That would be linked into this, or?
Absolutely. The self-certification portion of that work program, the consultant should be submitting their final report by the end of April. We then will be crafting a recommendation based on that and bring that recommendation back to council study session for your consideration.
But that would fall in this category.
It's technically a separate program, but it all lumps together in terms of a broad menu of service delivery, yes. Okay. Electronic plan review. As I mentioned, bringing it back, we're looking at a one-time cost of $126,000 so that we can offer electronic plan review to our clients. So I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have on that.
Yeah. This would be one time. It'd be built and then.
Correct. One time.
Okay. But you have some ongoing too on this?
$257 ongoing.
Okay.
with an anticipated $60,000 revenue offset from
Offset
new
on
development
that,
activity.
Okay, I'll pay the 257.
We're going to remember you said that.
Let the record show.
Yeah. Other questions?
The engineering counter permit technician. Again, let me reflect back to the metrics, page 255, because you'll see a similar trend line. Under timely engineering plan reviews, you go back to 12, and we were at 8.7 days, working days to turn around. Our objective is 12. We're at 16. All right, so we're over our target. That's a function of workload to staff. We want to be able to turn our plans around faster to help our builders, help our developers get into the ground faster. When you look at engineering civil sheets reviewed, from 12 to 13, we jumped from 47 sheets per month per reviewer to 81. Okay, so what we want to do, what we hope to gain your support for, is getting some contracts, some professional service assistance, not an FTE, but professional service, so that we can get an engineering counter permit tech, so that we can get some of these things routed faster. So again, this all falls in the bucket of tools to help expedite service delivery for, in this case, the engineering side for better service, customer service.
Questions?
Contract position, right?
Correct. Online permitting. This is a pilot program. Again, it goes back to the recent study session we had. It wasn't officially incorporated into the budget book just because of the timing. We didn't have a good handle on estimated costs. We wanted to bring it back tonight. We believe that the first rollout of a multi-phase program would be about an estimate of $53,000. Again, online permitting so that we can enable the full functionality of our Acela permitting system to enable folks to, for certain applications, gain their permit online. So this is, again, just bringing that back for incorporation into the budget. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have on that.
Questions?
And that's it.
That's it. Overall questions. Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Mayor. Page 274. It's the item on top, at the top. For overnight travel, you have $15,000. Can you talk about the successes and accomplishments of going to these conferences, traveling to these locations?
Yes. As I mentioned previously, we don't just go to any trade show. There's umpteen trade shows that you constantly get notified of, and we pass on the majority of them. We only focus on those trade shows that we think have direct applicability to what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of our targeted industries. So, for example, Travel to Coronet. That's a great trade show where you get a lot of industry CEOs and industries that we're really seeking to attract. Now, in terms of the success, I don't think there's a one-for-one relationship between attendance and gaining a prospect. We certainly, bring all the materials. We certainly bring our message. Part of it is getting the city of Peoria's desires and abilities and attributes known more widely in that industry. It's establishing yourself with them, creating the contacts, and seeing if you can make something come of it. So part of it's networking. Part of it is getting Peoria out there. But again, it's targeted to what we're seeking to do. I specifically chose that tack because limited dollars, so I want to get the most bang for the buck. But I wouldn't say that there's a one-for-one relationship between attendance and actually getting prospects.
I understand that. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. We're officially halfway through for this evening. And next up will be the city manager's budget overview. And Claudia Lujan from the city manager's office will be here to provide that overview, and it starts on page 57.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. As you know, the city manager's mission is to implement and support the council's goals through leading and coordinating internal and external communications and services, local, regional, and national coalition building, and advocating on behalf of the city. What you have before you this evening are the 4 core functional areas of the city manager's office. Each of them are funded through the general fund, and it is through these functional areas that the city manager's staff aligns municipal services with the community and the council's priorities. I think it's safe to say that the council's goals are what the city manager's office focuses on. However, the 2 that are the most overarching goals are enhancing current services as well as leading leadership and image. And it is through everything that we do that we focus on all the goals, but again, it's these 2 that are of the utmost importance for us. It's through the combined efforts of the city manager's staff and through the staff of the organization that we strive for transparency in internal and external communications with our communities. We seek opportunities for authentic community involvement, and it in turn positions Peoria as a welcoming organization. And we meet the needs of the community in the most efficient and effective manner. The 2 budget items before you this evening, the 2 supplementals, are in training and travel at $9,200, and then the Sister Cities budget supplement of $15,000. These are very important to us. We have functioned very frugally when it's come to training and travel, and I want to thank the council members this evening who, when they couldn't make some of the conferences that you were signed up for, when you offered us those opportunities to take advantage of them. Thank you for that. We have, and I think really want to continue to have our place at the table when it comes to ICMA, ACMA, and all of the other national organizations that we currently belong to, but I think that we need to have an opportunity to step up and really be part of these organizations in the planning of their conferences and moving forward. As such, Susan DeLuden is on the ICMA coordinating committee for this year's conference. So congratulations to her, and we also want to continue doing that as well with other organizations. In addition to that, some of our executive staff members have not had an opportunity for professional growth training in the last couple of years, and we'd like to see that if this could be supplemented, that would be greatly utilized. With regards to the Sister Cities funding, this is just moving it actually from non-departmental into the city manager's office as I administer that program. Nothing has changed with it, but I do believe that with this one-time funding, we can continue to have more of a meaningful impact in the community with the Sister Cities programming and also strengthen what we're doing with the Youth Ambassador program. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off with the new position in the city manager's office. Why do we need another administrative position?
We, I believe, as the city manager had spoken to earlier in the budget presentations, is customer service is first and foremost for us. And I say this with trying to insert a little bit of humor here in the budget meetings. We feel that Carlo Leone needs another person up there to handle the front office when we have staff that is not available. This position is going to be handling all backup for the front office when the current admin assistant has to step away, has to do other projects, and it'll service both sides, city manager's office as well as the front office.
What's the need on the city manager side?
Excuse me?
What is the need on the city manager side?
Well, if you see fit to provide us with the training and travel, we do feel we have the capability at the city manager staff and would like to have a lot more interaction at the local, regional, and national level on projects and on boards and commissions. With that, there comes the need to have a lot of support and that's where we would be utilizing this individual.
So this individual wouldn't report to anybody on the council side? It would be a
No, that position would be reporting to me.
Some additional questions on page 68. Item 520097, special services, $10,000 for an ICMA conference. Is that ongoing for this year?
We have asked to maintain that as whole. This last year, when we had the ICMA conference here locally, we did dip into those funds and even went above the funding. But again, we are to maintain that as whole.
So what's the expense?
At a lot of these conferences, the cities are asked to have promotional items to promote their cities. It helps, I think, also blend with economic development, branding of the city, and moving the organization forward.
Mayor and Council, I did want to clarify. If I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me, I think that 209.7 includes the entire city manager support for all of the different activities. In the past, had a much larger budget that was brought down to 10,000. It was to support miscellaneous various initiatives that are brought forward that do not have a funding item that are of city leadership in nature. They can include such things as conferences. In the past, it included other unforeseen events and activities like that. Is that correct?
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think the notation there to the 2012 conference is obviously a typo. Mr. Rivera, thank you.
Just one more comment on that. Just as you're aware, this is one area where it's been used for a lot of different things over time, but it's also one of those areas where it's not always utilized fully on any given year. So there are times where, for example, if you look at the estimate for fiscal year 13 is $5,200. So it's not expended to its full amount every year, but it's there for those things that come up.
So is it for the league conference that we have annually?
It could be for that. It could be if you wanted to, if there was a special attendance that you'd like to see, or if there's an initiative in the organization that the city manager wants to, push through, or bring in someone to help with leadership or something along that line. And this could be a place where the city manager could go to. It has been reduced. It was about 25,000, I believe, 35,000. And then through the recession, we reduced this significantly. So
And this is different than purchasing or buying tables at events?
No.
Right, this is different. This has been a line item that's been in the budget for years, and my predecessor had it in the neighborhood of, I think, as high as 30, 35,000 at different points. During the downturn, we felt in all of the aspects of our expenditure in the city manager's office that we really wanted to lead by example in the organization. So we cut fairly deeply, as you will remember, in staffing, as well as travel and training, and this contingency account as well. So we took it down by over 2/3.
Is this different than the overnight travel on the next page at the top?
Yes, this is different than overnight travel. Overnight travel would be more specifically for conferences like ICMA, ACMA, different, out-of-state conferences that any of the executive leadership would like to attend.
So total amount for travel is $14,000.
Total amount for travel is $14,000, and that's considered overnight travel, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's with the supplemental. That includes the 90, or the $4,700 of the supplemental that they had up there for $9,200 would be towards overnight travel.
I think what's confusing, the 10,000 that is noted on page 68, Mr. Rivero, is not a travel line item. That special services line item is basically a contingency amount that has traditionally been available for unforeseen activities that might come up throughout the organization, that we have access to be able to fund some small items that could come up across the year. The notation on the 2012 conference was not a travel notation. It was because we were, in a small way, helping to sponsor that local support for the national conference, much as the city had a more significant contribution to the National League of Cities conference that was here in 2012. We had a small contribution to the ICMA conference that was here in 2012. So I think that's the confusion. It's not a travel or conference line item per se, but it was used for that hosting function of the national conference.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions? Mr. Leone?
Right, come on, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just go one over here on 68, 513500, other allowance. What is that? Other allowance salary, what is, it says clothes, tools, and books. What,
Yes, that's a generic description for other allowances, but primarily in the city manager's office, this is related to communications allowances for the two deputies and the city manager and the assistant to the city manager.
No, because it says clothes. I was wondering what, do they have uniforms?
No, I understand your confusion there. Last year, we didn't have a description for what other allowances was, and it is used differently in different departments. So when you see it, it can be any of those items or all of those items potentially. But in the case of the city manager's department, this is related to their communications allowance.
Because every department has the same thing.
That is true. We tried to clarify that it could be used for a number of different things, depending upon the
City
department.
manager's office wears uniforms now. 'Cause I like to wear uniform. Thank you.
Yeah, I have it on that.
And besides, I didn't know we give the city manager a budget.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Next up is the Office of Communications. Starts on page 575, and Bo Larson, our newly confirmed Public Information Director, is here to present.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much. And I am here to present information dealing with the Office of Communications. The Office of Communications goal, and you can see the departments that it represents, or the organization within the department that it represents, is Public Information, Web Services, Channel 11, which is the broadcast, as well as graphic design. And our department serves as to proactively communicate and provide useful information to residents and help foster community pride, as well as organizational pride. Obviously our primary goal throughout all the services we provide is leadership and image in promoting city programs and services, as well as highlighting city staff and leadership. And that is one of the goals for Channel 11 that we do as a video services department, as well as a broadcast service for the city. But through this program of Channel 11 as well, it's allowed us to create some community relationships. One is a television show that we created with Peoria Unified School District, which has just recently won a statewide award for its community outreach. And it's a very much a collaborative effort between Channel 11 as well as the school district. We've also reached out to the Chamber of Commerce to do a local show. It helped meet a need that was missing at the time within our department, not only providing content, but as well as to help give an outreach for some of our local businesses. Through that show as well, it's allowed us to create a program for our own economic development services program that not only broadcasts on Channel 11, but as well as on YouTube and other uses within their own community or communications outreach. We also have created a series of programs called Showtime in Peoria, highlighting the public arts program as well as the theater programs that we have in the city. I think meeting a need and one of the questions that you've asked in supporting the arts in our community, this program helps. The Theater Works as well as Arizona Broadway Theater use the videos as well for some of their own communications and marketing for themselves. So hopefully it's making a difference. Obviously, we always want more viewers to Channel 11. It's hard to measure that, but we know if we misspell someone's name, someone's calling. So we know someone's watching at that appropriate time. But definitely using more social media as well as web streaming as a way of tracking and improving the performance of Channel 11, and continue to focus on city programs and services, highlighting our staff, our programs, our services. Oh, I forgot to push this button. I'm sorry. The other ones are automated. There we go. Now, graphic design is a new role within the city this year. In fact, this is the first full year that we've been able to measure graphic design with Mike Iverson. And you can see from some of the elements I have on the screen there, he's just done some outstanding, highly professional work. And we're very proud of all the work that he's been able to do and our department's been able to do for other departments. But one of the things we will always strive for is continue to provide the quality graphic design collateral, meeting our city graphic standards and our high professional image. We want to demonstrate cost savings. To date, we've figured, just using a conservative amount, at $100 an hour if you went out to a graphic design firm on the outside, we produced over $140,000 worth of graphic design by having this in-house. That doesn't mean that there's cost savings in someone's department. We don't know. It's hard to track that because some people made it on their own, but we do know that we've raised the level of professional output. And of course, provide timely service. We will bend over backwards. Now, web staff services is another important component for the city's communications, and again, is providing that professional image for the city, but also being highly functional and accurate with our information. Web staff services oversees 7 different websites for the city. 2 of these include for fire and police department. But one of our outcomes that we're striving for, obviously, is to increase the number of users to the PeoriaAZ.gov website, the main website, as well as all of our sites, but to make sure that our citizens are aware that many of the services they can find, the ability to pay bills, the ability to find information is available on our websites. Of course, we want timely service and increase the amount of internal usage, making internal communications a much more functional base. We feel now that CityNet is good, but we are looking this year to change the look of it to make it more kind of consumer friendly, because that's our employees are consumers as well, and they're used to that type of look. Then public information as well. We want to continue. It's obviously a leadership and image, but we want to maintain and improve our professional image for the city and provide the accurate and timely information, and always be timely and responsive to all media inquiries which we have, as well as increase the amount of internal communications for our staff, who are really the number one marketing tool for the city or any organization. This upcoming year, we will continue to measure and promote and push forward with increased coverage of city-generated news items in local and national media, increase our social media usage, raise community awareness, and increase internal communications. Now, this year, we do have some supplements that we are asking for, only for Channel 11. Channel 11 has gone without for about 7 years financially, replacing and repairing equipment, and they've done very well. But over those 5 to 7 years, the technology has changed drastically. It used to be tape, where you can take tape out of a camera, put it into an edit deck, do your program, and then put the tape back on the shelf. Well, now it's digital, which takes up a lot of space on the IT bandwidth, and takes up a lot of space within the edit machine, the Mac. So we have been working closely with our own IT services department to kind of design a system that we can take advantage of the servers that the city has to create at least a 24 terabyte storage system to back up all of our video as well as new video that comes in, because it is digital. And that especially is important that if, for example, we have an issue within Channel 11 broadcasting, on the broadcasting side, and we lose one of our servers, that means right now we would lose all of our programming. And we don't have necessarily all backed up as master files to put back onto Channel 11. This would allow us to have that backup, so within a day we can have Channel 11 full programming back online. As well as anything we go out and shoot today, we can store and save off the editing system into the storage array, and we can retrieve it the next day to edit on it or work on programs or make changes. Currently, that's very difficult to do. In addition, because the world is digital now, it's almost impossible to find tape for our cameras. The tsunami from 2 years ago in Japan wiped out one of the largest tape suppliers in the world, and maybe it was Sony's way of getting most people into the digital world. I don't know, but it does require us that we need to get a new digital camera, and we have looked at one that we feel is very fair priced. It's not top of the line, being respectful of budgets, but it is something that will get us through in the transition for the next year or so as we continue to look at improving what Channel 11 can provide. And the other one-time supplements as well is to start giving us the opportunity to replace equipment that's breaking and are faltering right now. These include some DVD players within our master control suite, as well as old tape decks that we still need a little bit of, and including some equipment that is located here in our own studio for Channel 11. And the same with our computer hardware and software. We have some equipment that is showing signs of faltering. It's getting older, and it impacts the broadcast. So if, for example, the computer for our programming software goes down, we have to have that replaced. And it's not part of the ongoing replacement budget that IT provides, because it is separate. Channel 11's always been treated separately, and so this is part of the replacement for that, and then the needed software. So, and with that, any questions? I'd be glad to take.
Thank you very much. Questions? Yeah, Mr. Leon.
That's going to be the first.
Yeah, on this page 594, contract labor. What is that?
Well, it's actually not contract labor. We use freelancers, and it's through a temporary service. It costs us about $33 an hour to use these people. And what these people are, if we have weekend events, because right now we only have 2 people within Channel 11, and so they work nights like this, they work a lot of hours. And so when we have a weekend event like what's coming up this Saturday, if we need someone to go out and shoot videotape of that, it allows some quality of life for our staff. We can hire someone to go out and shoot some video for us. It also allows us, because I think we've raised the level of the amount of programming through Channel 11 over the past year and a half or so. It allows us that if, for example, we start to back up on some programs that need editing, to maintain that timely service instead of like shooting and waiting 4, 5, 6 months before our editor can get to it. It allows us to reach out to a freelance editor, for example, and get that project done.
Is that a one-time deal, or is that just ongoing? Or?
Well, the freelance funding is ongoing, and we have it there. That is our safety net of usage to make sure that we can accomplish our programming as people request, because we are a service department, and we want to make sure that we're accomplishing the projects in as timely manner as possible.
Councilmember Leone, that's actually, it's not a new request or new money. That's actually, if you look in their personnel services under line item 510100, they had money in their part-time wages of $25,000. They just moved it down to a contractual line item in order to allow them to go to an outside vendor to do it versus paying an employee of the city part-time hour or part-time wages.
And the last one is that I understand what it is that food supply. It says $6,000. Is it 10 weeks? I don't think it was 10 weeks.
For the PLI?
PLI, yes.
No, I believe it's 7 weeks.
And it's still 6,000.
And 6,000 as much. That's been an ongoing budget amount line item for the past, even before I got here.
It could be less.
It definitely could be less.
But it doesn't show it. That's why I was wondering.
No, I've been carrying it over from my previous budget. Last year was my first budget with the city, and carrying it over. But that's something we can look at.
Yeah, because if it costs like $4,000, then I think it should show where we save $2,000. Then if it's then the following year, if it goes back up to 6, then you can show it. I just don't know. When it says 10 weeks and then you only have 8 weeks and $6,000, that's why I was wondering if it's $6,000 for 8 weeks and 10 weeks, it doesn't make any difference, but it should show it if it's not.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll work with budget and get that fixed.
thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Other questions?
Chief?
Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we've got just 2 more to go, and the first one is the Governmental Affairs and Council Office. That's John Shell, and he is going to start on page 437, and I believe he'll also be doing, or will you be doing Mayor and Council as well? All right, so we'll just go right through both of those areas.
There we go. Good evening. Okay. Just to briefly frame this, I have a nearly identical budget from last year and years prior. There's one very small difference, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So that I'll move through the slides pretty quickly. We'll focus on that and take whatever questions you have. Okay. Let me get this one. Okay, so this is how we're organized. The Government Affairs Office includes the Mayor and Council support as well as grants. You're obviously familiar with the council goals here. We've got some service outcomes that include working to minimize preemption to local authority, as well as to maximize our regulatory and revenue enhancements, and also to develop a regional presence. Also provide support to mayor and council members to improve the quality of services to our constituents. Grant programs are under us as well. You can see that for FY13 we're at 1.2 million. And this is this is a combination of my old budget and the new budget. So the first 3 items are the same as last year and the year before. The new part to this budget is the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, the Festival of Cities, and this is actually something that Councilman Leone was very interested in helping us improve our presence at the league, with having a booth presence and having things to give out, and just making our name more well known in that environment. And that's what I got.
Mr. Rivera.
Well, I hope we have the best booth at the conference, so I look forward to that.
Of course.
Okay. Set of questions here. Can you talk about the importance of having that extra insulation? Obviously, we have the league, but we have an extra layer of protection in regards to taking on those bills that might impact the city in all areas, including finances. Can you talk about the importance of the first item, which is federal and state consulting services?
Sure. Mayor, Councilmember Rivera, this is probably one of the more important parts of my budget. As far as the intergovernmental affairs work, it falls mostly to me, and so we got kind of I'm primarily responsible for what activities we undertake at the legislature. I do call upon some help from our other staff when I can, like from the mayor's office with Rachel and Lisa Estrada. But it's still mostly my activities with respect to the legislative stuff. And a couple of things. First of all, having some private sector assistance is very common. With cities our size, you'll notice that most of the cities our size and larger have some form of representation. And even the smaller ones like Goodyear and Avondale and Queen Creek and others. But the main reason for this is to improve and to bring more focus on the relationships that we need for being effective at the legislature. As you know, I work very hard there. I've got a lot of members that I'm very good with, but I don't know everybody. And so, this just helps us as a city. We play at a much higher level, I think, for our size than most cities do. And this is one of the reasons that allows us to do that.
I don't want to be critical of the state legislature, but
please don't.
That's my job.
Session's not over yet.
I'll let the mayor do that. Do you foresee any 1070 type bills coming down the pipe anytime soon, or is that something of the past?
Mayor, Councilman, or Vice Mayor Rivero, I think the issue is very much alive. I don't know that you're going to see something of a 1070 style. There's been some court action with respect to that. The state legislation at the federal level, Senator McCain and others are trying to do some things with respect to immigration policy. They're a lot more tempered and moderate in tone than what we've seen.
Okay. Lastly, I want to thank one of the members of your team. 2 weeks ago, we went down to Nogales, Sonora, and Lisa did an awesome job in assisting me throughout that visit. So I want to thank you and her for that.
Good. And if I can say one more thing, Mayor, Vice Mayor, also a perfect example of how we utilize or how I utilize our lobbyists/consultants is there's another person here, Art Othone, who went with you as well and was very instrumental in making some great connections while you were in Sonora, as I recall. And so that's a perfect example of where, having those extra relationships, particularly in areas that we don't have, it makes a huge difference.
Yes, and I had an opportunity as a result of an introduction from Art to meet the director of the sister cities for the state of Sonora. So.
Mr. Ames.
Yes, I've been down to the state legislature a few times, and you have an office there. It's called the long hallway where all the hearing rooms are. And
yeah, but I sleep on the lawn. On the Senate
you sleep
lawn.
on the lawn? I haven't seen that yet. So, yeah, I appreciate your good work, and I appreciate your budget has come in at minus 3.66% compared to last year. So, good job.
Thank you.
And Lisa has worked very well with me, too, in the area of transportation.
Leone.
Okay.
No,
Where you
Mr.
going?
Leone.
Sit.
Excuse me.
Sit. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I only got one question. Not a question. I just want the $4,000 that we use for the Arizona League of Cities. That's something that is very important that I think we done it for the first time last year, and Lisa and Tammy and Terry did a great job on it, showing them that who we are and that we're right up number one with them. We give out T-shirts and bags, and it was just great. Everybody enjoyed them. Everybody walking around, bags on them, which is great. It was white and green. The thing that I would like to do is take the $4,000 and move it over to ongoing costs, because anytime we decide to cut it off, we can always do it. So instead of coming back every year and bringing it up, I like to just move it over to the ongoing costs.
Okay, anything else? That'll come back in final reconciliation.
We've made note of that, Mr. Leone. So,
Was that again?
yes, we have made note of that.
We will discuss that
yes.
in the final day when we
Okay.
cut up the baby.
Councilman Leone, I'll support you as long as you don't run the booth.
I go what?
As long as you don't run the booth.
I don't run the booth?
No, I don't.
I couldn't hear you. Oh, no, that's John's job.
More questions on this department? Here's John.
Okay. Okay, so let's lastly move on to the mayor and council overview. Of course, our key service outcome is to work on policies and goals that reflect the communities of interest that we represent. These are new budget items here. The first is iPads for the mayor and 4 council members. This is something that's come across through IT. There's an interest in making sure that you're completely up to date and you have equipment you can utilize that'll make you more effective from the dais. And then secondly, this is another initiative, the youth delegation to the National League of Cities in D.C. This is something that Councilman Leone is leading the charge on would like to lead the charge on in April, or March rather, is the National League meeting that occurs in D.C. every year. And we've talked already. And the idea here is to bring our youth delegation there and to have them participate with other youth delegations from around the country, from other cities. And then also to do a variety of things that'll be special and unique for the youth that come there. So you'll see the 7,500 one time for that. And we did it last year, so. Okay.
Questions? Mr. Leone?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that we started this back in, I think it was 2000. First time we took the kids to Boston, and then when things went bad, we stopped it. But now I'd like to bring it back. And this time, it's only going to be one time a year. We just went to Boston in, was it March? Now, now next year.
No, in November last year.
November, okay. And then we want to bring it to DC in March. And hopefully John is doing a great job. He's going to try and get the kids to go to the White House on a tour, if he's got enough pull. And then maybe go to...
Of course.
Maybe go to the house and have lunch with some of the politicians, you know. So I think it's going to be great. And Terry Smith is always there, and she does a great job watching them. But again, it's $7,500, and I'd like to move it over to ongoing costs, that one too. Thank you.
Bring that back for final reconciliation.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, that completes this evening agenda. Go ahead.
We have requests to make some comments from some of the council members. You're up, Mr. Ames.
Yes, this is a long time going through the budget here, and I appreciate what everyone presented. And I know our city manager started out talking about a number of things, and he included taxpayers. But I feel now is the time to look at reducing some taxes. And I've gotten some information from Mr. Mattingly, Brent Mattingly, and the one I'm looking at is in the area of food tax at our grocery stores. Right now, it's set at 1.8%, and last year that 1.8% brought in $4.2 million. And I think it's time to start giving back to our taxpayers. They're the ones we work for, and I really didn't see anything in the budget about that. So I would like us to look at how we can bring that 1.8% down this coming fiscal year to 1.6%. And that's looking at about $500,000 to accomplish that. That's if this current year brings in 4.2 million under that. 1.6, it's going to be a drop of 500 million if we stay at the same level. Although we could pick up and we could make up some of that anyway, even at the 1.6 level. And I would ask the staff to look through how we can do that in the current budget. Maybe some of the things that were presented are maybe not as core as we think. I'm doing this because I really want us, as we come out of this recession, to consider the taxpayer as we move forward. And we're supposedly focusing on our core services, and I don't want us to think that we can never look at reducing taxes. And then we could look at the next year if we wanted to bring that food tax down more, depending on the revenues that come in. And when you look at this, I don't want to affect fire or police in their current budgets, but we might look at other budgets and probably not so much economic development. But maybe there are other ways to view this and look at expected revenues that we could do this as well as part of our budget for this coming fiscal year.
Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what you're doing, Councilmember Ames. Thank you for your leadership in that area. The reason I support looking into the food tax is the food tax impacts the neediest of our community, those who are struggling. So I look forward to that conversation.
Yes, and actually it impacts all of us, and a lot of people aren't even aware that we have a food tax here in Peoria, but we do, and I know this is a big thing being discussed right now in Phoenix, and but this is our city, and we should have some relief for our taxpayers, and I think this is a good area to look at. We haven't done any tax relief since I think it was my second year, we did a little drop in our property taxes, 5%. So that's what I'd like us to look at, and if you could bring that back the next time we meet and see how
Well,
we might do
before
that.
we're going to ask them to look at it and bring it back, we're going to get consensus from the council, because I don't want you guys to go do the work if there's not 4 votes for it. So, council, any other comments or questions? Ms. Carla?
Yes, if you are proposing that this $500,000 reduction doesn't impact police, fire, economic development, what are you proposing that it impacts?
Well, other things in the operating fund, but, you know,
Such
maybe
as?
you had us down 1.4 million, but that it brought us to 0. So I was wondering why we didn't look at some tax relief.
No, Mr. Ames,
in that.
I really want to know. I'm sure you've done some homework on this. What are you suggesting?
Well, the other areas of the operating budget.
Such as?
City attorney, city clerk, city manager, community services, finance, general government affairs, any of the others.
So you're considering
Maybe economic development too, but I
government affairs. Let's take that one. What are you considering out of that department that could be cut? City clerk.
I'm asking the staff to tell me what they would recommend.
We've just gone through the budget, and you're making a really big request here, and I need some more information before I can decide how we're going to pursue this. I think you've probably done some homework on it, right? What is your assessment?
My assessment is that I think we can do this in our current budget by maybe reducing some expenditures in the various operating budget, and also to look again at the expected revenues that are going to come in.
So we could increase revenues?
Yeah, look at the projections and see. You know, I think it's time we do need to pay attention to the people that we work for, our taxpayers.
And I agree. I agree that we need to pay attention to the people
And
who pay the
if you want,
taxes.
I
Yes?
can go through and identify items that, you know, I did that the first time we had a budget meeting. And identified 20, when we had 95 new positions, I identified 20 that we didn't need and that didn't work. So I think it's really up to the staff to make recommendations.
Well, I would
If you will,
just
I
like to
can do
suggest
that
that
too.
I would just like to suggest that we are barely coming out of a recession, barely. I mean, we are just to the point where we can just consider meeting the needs of the growth that we're starting to see again with development and permitting and inspections and those kinds of things. So, you know, for us to be able to hang on and keep up with that growth, I think that needs to be a major issue that we consider. So we can't take those kind of budgets, that kind of money out of anything that's going to have to do with the growth that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we totally drop the food tax. I'm just
$500,000 is a
down.
substantial amount. It's-
Yeah, and if,
Okay,
you know,
wait
if-
a minute.
yeah.
Let's do this properly. If you want to speak, you let me know.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Bill, you're up.
She was addressing me.
I know. I just cut it off.
Okay.
Mayor, tell me what this will mean in terms of the city's budget. Will it lessen it $500,000? Is that what
That's-
you're saying?
Is that what do we do? Reduce the total budget we have that's before us now by ethanol?
Yes, Mayor, we would, and council, we would need to go back and look at making either expenditure reductions from what we have in the budget, and it is approximately $500,000 based on that scenario. And it could be in the form of capital program items as well, or some of our operating budgets, as you've mentioned. We can look at all of our various options, but that would require a reduction, yes.
It goes without saying that we need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. There's no question about that. But I agree, we're just coming out of a recession right now. We have provided core services to our city, to our citizens for a number of years. I don't think it's the responsibility of the city to just provide core services. At some point, we need to get a little bit beyond that. If we're starting to look at cutting the budget again right now, we're just going to continue to provide core services. As we come out of this recession, let's hope that we can give our citizens something just a little bit more than core services, or less than core services. That's my opinion.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor, and I respect your position, Mr. Patena. My position on this, if I've been on this council for 2 years and a half, I represent the southern part of the city. We give incentives, or we support organizations that are doing well for the purpose of attracting jobs, and we do many creative things where we invest taxpayer money. This is an opportunity, and I'm open to the debate. This is not personal. This is an opportunity to give back to the citizens. We talk about employee raises. We talk about, let's attract this company. We'll incentivize them to come here. When are we going to incentivize the taxpayer, especially those who are hurting the most? I think it's worth having the discussion, and I look forward to debating it with anyone on this council.
Other comments? Yeah. I guess I'll toss in my 2 cents here. I agree. Nobody likes taxes. Nobody wants to pay taxes. I disagree that we're coming out of a recession. I began this whole process by saying that I'm very concerned with sequestration. We could easily go back into a recession. And I think, yes, we should treat it just exactly as Phoenix did, which was not change the food tax. So I'm opposed to it. Other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to speak again.
Okay.
Yeah, and, I want the staff to come back here, and then the council will have to nod at that point. This isn't saying that we automatically do it. I just want to look at it.
Well, I'm not going to assign the staff to something that doesn't have for support. So,
okay.
Yes, you
Yes.
want them to study this, yes?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
No. We're adjourned.